The wind had a way of telling the truth on the high plains. It whispered secrets through dry grass and rattled the loose boards of old fences, carrying memories no one wanted to say out loud. Elias Crow had lived long enough to hear them all. For 15 years, his ranch had known only one human voice, his own. So when he stepped onto his porch at dusk and saw 10 figures standing at the edge of his land, silent and unmoving, his heart froze in his chest. He didn't know who they were yet. He only knew that his lonely life was about to end. Elias was a man carved out of loss. Once laughter had lived in his house, his wife's gentle teasing, his little boy's footsteps running down the hall. Then a fever came through town one brutal winter, and by spring the laughter was buried under 2 wooden crosses. After that, Elias did what wounded men often do. He pulled away. He sold the cattle that reminded him of better days, kept only enough to survive, and spoke to no one unless necessary. The town respected his silence and gave him space. Years passed. His beard turned gray, his shoulders bent. The ranch became a place forgotten by everyone except him. That evening, the sun sank low, painting the sky in red and gold, when Elias noticed movement beyond the old cottonwood trees. 10 people, men, women, and children stood. Together, dust clinging to their clothes. They were Apache, their faces tired, their posture guarded. They didn't cross the fence. They didn't shout. They simply waited. Elias rested his hand on the doorframe, his mind racing with old fears and older stories. He had grown up hearing warnings about Apaches, about danger and bloodshed. But what he saw before him was not an attack. It was desperation. After a long moment, one of the men stepped forward. He raised his hand slowly, showing he carried no weapon. His voice was calm but heavy with exhaustion. "We are cold. We are hungry. We ask for shelter. Just one night." The children clung to the women's skirts, eyes wide, fearful but hopeful. Elias felt something twist inside his chest. He could have said no. He could have turned away, shut the door, and gone back to his quiet misery. No one would have blamed him. No one would have even known. But he saw his son's face in one of the boys. He heard his wife's voice in the silence between words. And before his mind could argue him out of it, Elias nodded. "You can stay," he said, his voice rough from years of disuse. "One night, there's a barn and some blankets. I'll bring food." The relief was immediate and overwhelming. Shoulders relaxed. Some of the women bowed their heads in gratitude. The group followed him carefully, as if afraid the offer might disappear if they moved too fast. Elias led them to the old barn, sweeping out dust and laying down what blankets he had. He brought bread, dried meat, and a pot of beans still warm. From the stove, he watched as they ate slowly at first, then with growing urgency. Hunger, he realized, looked the same on every face. That night Elias couldn't sleep. He sat at his kitchen table, listening to the wind and the faint sounds from the barn's soft murmurs. A child coughing, someone quietly crying. He wondered who they were and what had driven them to his land. He wondered what trouble might follow. Them, yet beneath the worry, there was something else. A strange warmth. Like a fire rekindled after years of ashes. Morning came with pale light and the smell of rain. Elias walked to the barn with more food, expecting them to be gone. But they were still there, packing what little they owned. The man who had spoken the night before approached him again. He introduced himself as Tehoma. His eyes were steady, proud but lined with grief. He explained that their village had been burned after a conflict they did not start. Soldiers had come, homes were lost, elders had died. They had been walking for days, searching for a place to rest without fear. Elias listened without interrupting. Each word landed heavy. He knew what it meant to lose a home, to be chased by forces you could not fight. When Tehoma finished, he lowered his gaze. "We will leave now," he said. "You have already given more than we asked." Elias surprised himself again. "Stay," he said, "at least until the storm passes. I've got land. I've got work." The offer hung in the air, fragile and bold. Tehoma studied him, measuring his sincerity. Slowly he nodded. Days turned into weeks. The Apaches helped repair fences, tend cattle, and plant a small garden. The children laughed again, their voices carrying across the fields. Elias found himself waking earlier, moving with purpose. Meals were shared. Stories were exchanged. Sometimes through gestures, sometimes through broken words and patient smiles. He learned their customs. They learned his routines. Trust grew, not loudly, but steadily, like roots pushing into dry soil. Not everyone welcomed the change. Word spread to town, and with it came suspicion. A few men rode out one afternoon, rifles visible, faces hard. They warned Elias that he was harboring trouble, that soldiers might come.
Yes.
That he should send the Apaches away before things turned. Ugly. Elias stood his ground, his hands shaking but his voice firm. "They're people," he said. "They're under my roof." When the men left, fear crept in. Elias lay awake that night, wondering if he had put everyone in danger. But at dawn, Tohoma approached him. "If trouble comes," he said quietly, "we will go. You have done enough." Elias looked at the man who had become his friend and felt something settle inside him. "We'll face it together," he replied. Trouble did come, but not in the way Elias feared. A patrol arrived, tense and alert. Words were exchanged, questions asked. But something unexpected happened. The Apaches did not hide. They stepped forward, calm and united. Elias spoke too, telling the truth of what he had seen: hunger, loss, humanity. The officer listened longer than Elias expected. When they left, no arrests were made. No violence followed. The ranch remained quiet as autumn painted the land gold. The Apaches prepared to move on to safer territory where relatives waited. The day they left was heavy with emotion. The children hugged Elias fiercely. Tohoma placed a hand over his heart. "In thanks, you gave us more than shelter," he said. "You gave us dignity." Elias could not speak. His eyes burned, but for the first time in years. They burned with something other than sorrow. When the dust settled and the ranch fell, quiet again, Elias felt the loneliness returned. But it was different now. It no longer hollowed him out. It reminded him that his heart was still capable of opening. He tended the fields they had planted together, repaired what they had built side by side. And sometimes, when the wind whispered through the grass, it no longer spoke only of loss, carried laughter, courage, and the truth Elias had learned too late, but just in time. Even the most broken lives can become shelter for others, and in doing so, be healed themselves.